every time a new story hits the news about California, I just kind of have to shake my head. Take, for instance, the story of Drew Rosenberg. Now, in 2010, this aspiring young lawyer from San Francisco was killed by a drunk driver when Roberto Gallo hit the motorcycle on which Rosenberg was riding. A tragedy made even more grotesque when you get into the details, like the fact that Gallo ran over his body multiple times in an attempt to flee the scene, or that he only spent 43 days in jail for the crime. Listen to Rosenberg's father on Fox News. He still has fears for his other children.
Look, even to this day, when, if the phone rings at an off hour, or if, neither of my kids are in the house anymore, one's in college and one's graduated, but, they don't connect back to us. We send them a text or something, it's just immediate fear of what's happening.
Oh, I'm glad that soundbite ended. Any scumbag American could have committed this crime, but Gallo was not an American. He was an illegal alien from Honduras living in the United States. Now, thankfully, this non-citizen was deported in 2013, but was justice really served? I mean, he only spent 43 days in jail, living free in his home country. And I just want to point out, he's, again, living, he's alive. So why is there so much leniency? I really find it hard to believe that an American citizen who committed the same crime would have only spent 43 days behind bars. But you have to remember that in California, they are far more concerned about the imaginary protections for illegal aliens than they are for the Drew Rosenbergs of this world. I mean, California is a haven for so-called sanctuary cities. Sanctuary, it sounds so nice. It sounds like a spa, doesn't it? And they openly defy federal immigration law on a regular basis in order to maintain the loyalty of the far left. And after all, many of these illegal aliens could be future Nancy Pelosi voters if the Democrats play their amnesty cards right. I don't know, is Nancy Pelosi still going to be a thing in a few years? We'll see. And if a few Drew Rosenbergs die along the way, well, you know how it is. You can't make an omelet. You get the point. It's despicable. Luckily, some in California law enforcement are not having it. This is one of my favorite stories, by the way. Orange County Undersheriff Don Barnes ain't having it. He's done. Appalled at his state's open flaunting of federal immigration law and its impact on the safety of the citizens that he is tasked with protecting. This is a sheriff undersheriff that's actually doing it right. I think the Broward sheriff should take notes. He's made it clear that he's not going to sit idly by. Now, as of this past Monday, Barnes has upped the ante on keeping track of criminals that are in America illegally. The Who's in Jail database will show the time and date of any inmate's release from the prison system, which should help immigration officials nab these guys right when they step outside the prison gates if they so want to. And this is all in response to a new sanctuary city law in California, SB 54, which goes out of its way to make it difficult for law enforcement to do their job or communicate among agencies about the whereabouts and activities of known illegal aliens. Now, as Barnes said in a statement, quote, "This is in response to SB 54 limiting our ability to communicate with federal authorities and our concern that criminals are being released to the street when there's another avenue to safeguard the community by handing them over to ICE for, obviously for potential deportation." I'm really happy to see law enforcement doing the job of enforcing the laws. That's what they're supposed to do. And I really hope that the Broward County Sheriff's Office takes notes. And speaking of the Broward Sheriff, we're going to talk a lot about him coming up. So clearly, California has all of their priorities out of whack, and it's good to see that some of their citizens and law enforcement officials have had just about enough. But none of that is stopping the state from continuing to work harder on behalf of illegal aliens than they do for their own citizens. And now they are looking to sue the Trump administration over citizenship questions in the 2020 census. Listen to California's Attorney General here.
In our lawsuit, we argue that this decision by the Trump administration violates the Constitution and federal law. We look forward to making our case in court against the Trump administration. We're not going to stop. And we're going to defend every one of our rights to make sure that every one of our people who's worked hard to make California the 6th largest economy in the state is counted.
Well, Dale Wilcox joins me now to discuss. Thank you so much for being here. Obviously, I mean, this is it feels like California is prioritizing those who enter illegally over its own citizens, and I can understand now why this undersheriff in Orange County is doing what he's doing and making sure. I mean, I love the database. I love all of this, but how successful is that going to be? Because I know that I feel like there are lawsuits flying back and forth between California and the Trump administration, and now we have this. I mean, what is the outcome going to be to this, do you think?
Well, the questions that are on the census form are a federal concern. So Congress has the ultimate power to decide what questions are on there. When you started this piece, you mentioned California's insanity. Where do we start? Senate Bill 54, sanctuary state law. Thankfully, these local jurisdictions are standing up to the state and saying, we're not going to take this. We're going to put our residents, our citizens' safety and interest before illegal aliens. And then, of course, as you mentioned, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, Dale, one of the things I'm curious about is, you know, when it comes to the census, and this is one of the many problems that are plaguing California right now, I mean, is it unreasonable for American citizens to know what percentage of the population is here legally? I mean, that doesn't seem to be unreasonable.
Well, it isn't at all. In fact, since the founding of this country, we've done that. We've had that question on our census form since 1820, all the way up until, guess what, 2010. President Obama's administration took that question off the long form of the census. So there's a purpose behind this. Everyone knows it's about political power and money. California has even admitted in their lawsuit they are going to lose federal funds if you do not count illegal aliens in the census. Also, they'll lose seats in the House of Representatives. I've heard reports that they have up to 3 seats they shouldn't have as a result of counting illegal aliens in census.
Do you ultimately think that that's really where the complaint is? Because I was reading, I mean, they could lose, I mean, a significant enough influence for California, but also a huge portion of federal dollars there. I mean, ultimately, that seems to be their biggest complaint, but that's not enough to sway their argument, in my opinion. I mean, honestly, I think that the rights of citizens should come before all of that. It just sounds bad. That's a bad argument for them.
I absolutely agree. It doesn't hold water, but California, they seem to lead the country in crazy. They've sued the federal government numerous times over President Trump's sanctuary city executive order, over the travel ban, on and on and on. And it's time for California to put the interests of their citizens and legal residents ahead of those who shouldn't be here.
Right. One last quick question for you, Dale. I saw this letter that a bunch of these city mayors, you know, and they're all completely, it seems that they're for sanctuary cities, etc. But they sent this letter in saying that it's an inaccurate census. An inaccurate census leads to underrepresentation and fewer dollars, and that's what they were arguing about for themselves. Underrepresentation for who, Dale? For whom?
You're absolutely right. They say that asking the citizenship question will cause illegal aliens to avoid responding to the census, and as a result, they'll lose money and seats in the House. So who are these officials supposed to be representing? They're citizens and legal residents, and when it comes to voting and whatnot, that's strictly limited to citizens in the Constitution. So California needs to get its priorities straight.
Absolutely. Dale Wilcox, a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.